The pregnancy test showed two pink lines. After 3 years of trying, 3 rounds of IVF that drained every penny we had,
You look great.
three
Thank you.
miscarriages that nearly destroyed
Shall
me,
we?
I was finally going to be a mother. I drove straight to my husband's office to surprise him with the news. What I found instead would shatter everything I believed about my life, my marriage, and the man I trusted with my entire heart. He was walking out of a hotel, adjusting his tie, and the woman fixing her hair behind him, his assistant, the one he swore was just a colleague. But that was not even the worst part. 3 weeks later, I woke up bleeding at 2 in the morning. I screamed for my husband. He was not there. I drove myself to the hospital, alone, terrified. And I lost our baby while he was with her. When I finally discovered the truth on his phone, I found something that made my blood run cold. A text message that read, "Soon as the kid is born, I am filing for divorce and going for full custody. My lawyer says if we prove she is mentally unstable, I get everything." He never wanted to save our marriage. He was building a case to destroy me. But he made one fatal mistake. He underestimated what a broken woman with nothing left to lose is capable of becoming. Value statement: this story is not just about betrayal and revenge. It is about the moment you stop being a victim and start becoming the person they never thought you could be. If you have ever been gaslit, manipulated, or made to feel like you were the problem, this story will remind you of one powerful truth. The fire does not last forever, but you do. Meaning of the story. This is a story about survival, about documentation, about learning the difference between revenge and justice. It is about building yourself back up when someone has deliberately torn you down. And it is about discovering that rock bottom is not the end of your story. It is the foundation for everything you are about to become. The pregnancy test showed two pink lines. I stood in the bathroom of our modest 3-bedroom house in Asheville, North Carolina, staring at those two lines like they were written in a language I had forgotten how to read. After 3 years of trying, 3 rounds of IVF that drained our savings down to nothing, 3 miscarriages that nearly broke me in ways I still cannot fully describe. I was finally going to be a mother. My hands trembled as I wrapped the test in tissue paper and tucked it into my purse. I wanted to tell Ryan in person. I wanted to see his face when he realized that all our sacrifice, all our pain, all those nights I cried myself to sleep while he held me and promised everything would be okay, it had finally led to this moment. I drove straight to his office to surprise him. What I found instead would destroy everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and myself. My name is Lauren Mercer. I was 34 years old, working as a paralegal at a mid-sized law firm, married to a man I believed loved me more than anything in this world. We lived in a house with a mortgage we could barely afford, carrying $47,000 in debt from fertility treatments. And I genuinely thought that we were partners fighting the same battle. I was wrong about everything. When I arrived at Mercer Medical Supply, the receptionist, a young woman named Caitlin, who had always been friendly to me, looked uncomfortable the moment I walked through the door. I said, "Hi, Caitlin. Is Ryan in his office?" I wanted to surprise him. She shifted in her chair, avoiding my eyes. "Actually, Mrs. Mercer, he left early today. Said he had a client meeting off-site." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Where?" She hesitated. "I think he mentioned the Willow Creek Inn for lunch with a client." I thanked her and left, telling myself I was being paranoid. Ryan had client lunches all the time. It was part of his job as regional sales manager. There was nothing unusual about this. But as I drove toward the Willow Creek Inn, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Ryan's assistant, Brooke Nelson, was also missing from her desk. Brooke was 28, blonde, and had started working for Ryan about 2 years ago. She was efficient, professional, and always smiled a little too brightly whenever I stopped by the office. I had mentioned it to Ryan once, half joking, and he had laughed and called me adorable for being jealous. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I pulled into the parking lot of the Willow Creek Inn, a boutique hotel just outside of town, and I saw Ryan's car parked near the back entrance. I did not storm inside. I did not cause a scene. Instead, I sat in my car for 47 minutes, watching the entrance, waiting, hoping I was wrong. The pregnancy test sat on the passenger seat beside me, those two pink lines now feeling like a cruel joke the universe was playing. At 3:42 in the afternoon, Ryan walked out of the hotel. He was adjusting his tie, running his fingers through his hair the way he always did after intimate moments. I knew that gesture. I had seen it 1,000 times in our own bedroom. Then Brooke walked out behind him. She was fixing her hair, smoothing down her skirt, and when she reached Ryan, she leaned up and kissed him. Not on the cheek, on the mouth. A comfortable, familiar kiss, the kind of kiss that comes from practice, from repetition, from doing something so many times it becomes routine. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I watched them talk for another minute, laughing about something I could not hear. Then Brooke got into her own car and drove away, and Ryan checked his phone, smiled at something on the screen, and got into his vehicle. He drove right past me without noticing I was there. I sat in that parking lot for another 20 minutes, unable to move, unable to think, unable to process what I had just witnessed. Looking back now, I wish I had taken photos right then. Documentation, timestamps, evidence. But shock does strange things to your brain. It freezes you. It makes you doubt what your own eyes just saw. If you are ever in this moment, and I pray you never are, take out your phone. Record, screenshot, save everything. Your future self will need it. But I did not do any of that. Instead, I drove home in a daze, the pregnancy test still sitting on the passenger seat, and I waited for my husband to come home and lie to my face. Ryan arrived at 6:15, cheerful and relaxed, carrying a bottle of wine he had picked up on the way home. "Hey, babe," he said, kissing my cheek. "How was your day?" I placed the pregnancy test on the kitchen counter between us. His face lit up with what looked like genuine joy. "Oh my God, Lauren, finally. This is amazing." He moved to hug me. I stepped back. "I went to your office today," I said quietly. The light in his eyes flickered, just for a moment, so brief I almost missed it. Then his expression shifted, not to guilt, not to panic, but to concern. Concern for me. "Honey," he said gently, "you have been under so much stress with the fertility treatments. Dr. Patterson warned us about hormonal mood swings affecting your perception. I saw you," I said, "with Brooke. At the Willow Creek Inn." Ryan sighed heavily, like a patient parent dealing with a difficult child. "Lauren, I had a client lunch at the restaurant there. Brooke came to take notes. You know how important the Henderson account is to our quarterly numbers. You kissed her." He actually laughed. I kissed her on the cheek. "She just got engaged, Lauren?" I was congratulating her. Her fiancé proposed last weekend. I stared at him, searching for the lie in his eyes, but all I saw was patience and understanding, and the quiet confidence of a man who knew exactly how to make me doubt myself. "Baby," he said, stepping closer and taking my hands. "You're pregnant. After everything we have been through, this is a miracle. Let us not ruin this moment with paranoia, okay? I love you. Only you. I have always only loved you." That night, I apologized to my husband for accusing him of something he did not do. I fell asleep feeling guilty for almost destroying my marriage over nothing. My mother always said, "Trust your gut." But my gut was currently occupied by a tiny human doing somersaults, so I figured it was unreliable. Spoiler alert, The gut knows. The gut always knows, even when it is hosting a tenant. 2 weeks passed, and I tried desperately to move forward. I started a nursery Pinterest board, pinning images of soft gray walls and white cribs and mobiles with little stars that would catch the light. I called my sister Emma in Seattle to share the news, and she screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Oh my God, Lauren," she said, crying. Finally something good is happening for you." Emma was 38, a high school teacher, and single mom to my 12-year-old niece, Lily. She had been my rock through every miscarriage, every failed treatment, every moment when I wanted to give up. She was the only person in the world who truly understood what I had been through. But even as I tried to embrace hope, small things kept gnawing at me. Ryan's phone was now always face down on the counter. He never used to do that. He worked late 3 nights a week, sometimes 4. Before, he had complained constantly about having to stay past 5. And he was suddenly very interested in protecting me from stress. He suggested I quit my paralegal job for the baby's health. He said my friends were too negative and I should limit my time with them. He insisted on handling all our finances, so I would not have to worry. I know now what he was doing. Isolation is the first tool of control. It starts small. "You should rest more. That job is too stressful. Your friends do not understand what we are going through." If someone who claims to love you is slowly removing every source of support and independence from your life, that is not protection. That is a cage being built around you, one bar at a time. But I did not see it then. I was pregnant and hopeful, and so desperate to believe that my marriage was not a lie that I ignored every warning sign my instincts were screaming at me. Still, some part of me could not let go completely. I started keeping a small notebook hidden in my nightstand. Dates, times, inconsistencies. I told myself it was just for my own peace of mind, that I would never need it, that I was being paranoid. I was not being paranoid. At 8 weeks pregnant, I woke up in the middle of the night to blood on the sheets. The scream that came out of me did not sound human. "Ryan," I called out, reaching for his side of the bed. "Ryan, something is wrong." But his side of the bed was empty. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand. It was 2:14 in the morning. I called Ryan's cell. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I called a third time, and this time a recording told me the number I was trying to reach was unavailable. I drove myself to the hospital, alone, bleeding, terrified, while my husband's phone was apparently turned off in the middle of the night. In the emergency room, a nurse helped me onto a gurney and started an IV while asking questions I could barely process. "Is there anyone we can call? Your husband? Your mother?" I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. My mother had passed away 2 years ago. My father had remarried and moved to Arizona. We barely spoke. My sister Emma lived in Seattle, 3,000 miles away. I was completely, devastatingly alone. Ryan finally arrived at 4 in the morning. He rushed into the room, still wearing the clothes he had on when he left for work the previous day, and immediately took my hand. "Baby, I am so sorry," he said. "My phone died." I was at Dave's house watching the game, and I fell asleep on his couch. "I came as soon as I got your messages." He smelled faintly of perfume. That was not mine. But I was too broken to argue, too broken to question, too broken to do anything except grip his hand and pray that somehow, the baby would be okay. The doctor entered with solemn eyes. "Mrs. Mercer," she said quietly, "I am very sorry. We did everything we could, but you have experienced a miscarriage. The pregnancy was not viable." The grief was a physical weight that crushed me into that hospital bed. Ryan held me while I sobbed, stroking my hair, whispering that it would be okay, that we would try again, that this was not the end. And I believed him. I believed every word. Ryan was attentive. For exactly 5 days after we returned home, he brought me tea. He held me when I cried. He told his office he was working remotely so he could be near me. On day 6, he started suggesting I needed to move forward and could not dwell on this forever. By day 10, he was back to working late and coming home smelling like that same unfamiliar perfume. My grief counselor suggested I journal my feelings. So I did. Day 1, I hate everything. Day 2, I still hate everything. Day 3, I especially hate the pregnant woman at Target who touched my arm and said, "Your time will come, sweetie." Day 4, I might be going to prison for what I said to the pregnant woman at Target. Humor was the only thing keeping me from drowning completely. 2 weeks after the miscarriage, I finally found the courage to do what I should have done months ago. While Ryan was in the shower, I picked up his phone from the nightstand. It was password protected. I tried his birthday, our anniversary, our dog's name from when we were first married. Nothing worked. Then, with trembling fingers, I typed in Brooke 2024. The phone unlocked. What I found inside destroyed whatever small piece of hope I had been clinging to. Hundreds of messages between Ryan and Brooke, photos, videos, plans for weekends away when I thought he was at sales conferences. Inside jokes about me, about how naive I was, about how easy I was to manipulate. The affair had started 2 years ago, 2 years before we even began IVF. While I was injecting myself with hormones, enduring painful procedures, mourning miscarriage after miscarriage, blaming my own body for failing us, Ryan was with Brooke. But that was not even the worst part. The worst part was a text from Ryan to Brooke, dated 3 weeks before my miscarriage. She is pregnant again. I thought the IVF would not work. Guess we have to wait this out. Soon as the kid is born, I am filing for divorce and going for full custody. My lawyer says if we can prove she is mentally unstable from all the hormone treatments, I can get the house and the kid. Brooke's response was a kissing emoji and the words, "Poor baby, come over, and I will make you feel better." I sat on the edge of our bed, reading those words over and over, feeling something inside me collapse that I did not know could collapse. My husband had never wanted to save our marriage. He was waiting for a baby to use as leverage against me. He was already building a legal case to take everything. The hormonal instability comments were not support. They were evidence gathering. I was not his wife. I was his target. For the next hour, I sat in our bedroom with Ryan's phone in my hands, screenshots flying to my email as fast as my trembling fingers could capture them. Every message, every photo, every damning piece of evidence that proved the man I married was a monster wearing the mask of a loving husband. I was going to divorce him first. I was going to take control. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. I called my sister Emma immediately. "Come to Seattle," she said without hesitation. "Stay with me. We will figure this out together." I booked a one-way ticket for the next morning. That night, I packed a suitcase while Ryan was supposedly at Dave's house watching another game. I moved through our home like a ghost, selecting items that mattered, leaving behind everything that reminded me of the lie I had been living. At 11:47, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Ryan. My blood turned to ice as I opened it. The message contained a photo of me, sitting on our bed, Ryan's phone in my hands. Below the photo were the words, "Did you really think I would not have cameras in our own bedroom? Check your email. I have already sent everything to my lawyer. Sweet dreams, wife." I dropped my phone like it had burned me. With shaking hands, I opened my email. There it was. A legal notice from Ryan's attorney, filed that same evening, claiming that Lauren Mercer had been exhibiting paranoid and invasive behaviors during a vulnerable period of their marriage and had violated her husband's privacy by accessing his personal devices without consent. He had turned my evidence, gathering into proof of my instability. He had been 3 steps ahead of me the entire time, because that is the thing about dealing with someone who has no conscience. They are always planning. And you? You are just surviving. I flew to Seattle the next morning anyway. Emma met me at the airport, took one look at my face, and wrapped her arms around me without saying a word. She held me while I cried in the middle of the arrivals terminal. Strangers streaming past us, nobody stopping, nobody caring about the woman falling apart in public. Emma lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Her daughter Lily, my 12-year-old niece, immediately gave up her room for me. "Aunt Lauren," she said seriously, "you can have my bed. I will sleep on the couch. Mom says, family takes care of family." I hugged her so tight, she squeaked. The first thing I did in Seattle was find a divorce attorney. Sandra Mitchell was 55 years old, sharp as a razor, and had the kind of tired eyes that come from decades of watching good people get destroyed by bad systems. She reviewed my case over coffee in her small downtown office, flipping through the documents I had brought, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "Here is the reality," she said finally. "You are in Washington now. You left the marital home in North Carolina. Ryan is filing there, where the laws favor him. The bedroom footage, while creepy, was legal since it is his property. And the screenshots you took could actually hurt you." I stared at her. "How?" "He is the one cheating," Sandra sighed. "North Carolina is actually one of the few states where you can sue for alienation of affection. You could go after Brooke directly, but Ryan's lawyer is already spinning this as you being vindictive and unstable. The miscarriage, the hormone treatments, fleeing across the country. It all fits a narrative he is constructing." "I did not flee," I said through gritted teeth. "I left an abusive situation." "I believe you," Sandra said gently. "But will a judge in North Carolina believe you? Ryan's family has lived there for 3 generations. His uncle is a county commissioner. His college roommate is an assistant district attorney. He has home field advantage in every possible way." "So what are you saying?" "I am saying this is going to be a long, expensive fight, and I need you to be prepared for the possibility that you might not win." Sandra's hourly rate was $350. I did the math. At that rate, I could afford approximately 47 minutes of justice before I would need to start selling organs. I wondered if there was a market for spleens. Probably not. Spleens are the participation trophies of internal organs. Technically, you have one, but nobody really knows what it does. I left Sandra's office feeling more hopeless than when I walked in. Ryan had frozen all our joint accounts. I had no access to money, no job, no home, and no way to fight back against a man who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. 3 weeks later, I took a job as a waitress at a diner near Emma's apartment. It was humiliating. I had a paralegal certification. I had spent years building a career, and now I was serving pancakes to strangers and hoping the tips would be enough to cover my share of groceries. But I did it anyway, because survival does not care about your pride. One evening, a man in a rumpled suit sat in my section. He was in his mid-40s, with tired eyes and a coffee-stained tie, reviewing legal documents while he ate his pie. I brought him his check and happened to glance at the header on the papers. Mercer Medical Supply, quarterly audit. My blood ran cold. The man looked up, caught me staring. "You okay?" "You look like you have seen a ghost." Before I could stop myself, I said, "I used to be married to the regional sales manager." His eyebrows rose. "Ryan Mercer? You are Lauren?" I nodded, suddenly terrified that this was another trap, another person working for my husband, another way for Ryan to destroy me. But the man reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. My name is Daniel Brooks. I am a forensic accountant investigating irregularities at Mercer Medical Supply. I have been trying to reach you for weeks. There are some things you need to know about your husband's business activities. Ex-husband, I said. Almost. Daniel nodded. Even more important then. Can we talk somewhere private? We sat in a booth at the back of the diner, and Daniel explained everything. Ryan had been running a kickback scheme with hospital purchasing departments for years. He was inflating invoices, pocketing the difference, and laundering the money through shell companies. Total estimated fraud was $2.3 million over 5 years. And my name was on some of the shell company documents. Ryan had forged my signature. If this goes to federal court, Daniel said, and it will, you could be charged as an accomplice unless you cooperate. But I did not know anything about this, I said, my voice rising. I believe you, but believing is not proving. I need your help to prove it. For the first time in months, hope flickered in my chest. If Ryan was facing federal charges, my divorce case would be a cakewalk. No judge would give custody or assets to a man looking at prison time. I agreed to cooperate. Over the following weeks, Daniel and I worked together building a case. He was careful, methodical, and genuinely kind. He treated me like a partner, not a victim. He listened when I remembered small details about Ryan's business trips, unexplained cash purchases, his insistence that I never look at the boring financial stuff. I started to feel powerful again, useful, valuable. With your testimony and the documentation you can provide, Daniel said one evening, Ryan is looking at serious federal charges. Fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. Your divorce case will be resolved in your favor once he is facing prison time. I allowed myself to hope. And then everything collapsed. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Mrs. Mercer? This is Deputy Collins from the Burke County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina. I am calling to inform you that a restraining order has been filed against you on behalf of Ryan Mercer. I nearly dropped the phone. What? You are prohibited from contacting him, his family, or any associates of Mercer Medical Supply. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. On what grounds? I asked, my voice shaking. Harassment, stalking, and making threats against the plaintiff's life. Mr. Mercer has provided documentation including voice messages and emails. I never sent any voice messages. I never sent threatening emails. I had not contacted Ryan directly since leaving North Carolina. Deputy, I said desperately, those are fabricated. I did not send any of that. Ma'am, I am just informing you of the order. Have a good day. The line went dead. I immediately called Daniel Brooks. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I called 5 more times over the next hour. Nothing. Finally, I called Sandra Mitchell, my lawyer. Her voice was strained when she answered. Lauren, I was just about to call you. What is happening? I just got a call from the federal prosecutor's office. They have suspended their interest in your cooperation. What? Why? Someone leaked information about the investigation. Ryan was tipped off. He has already destroyed evidence and hired criminal defense attorneys. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear her next words. And Lauren, she continued, they are saying the leak came from you. That is insane, I shouted. I did not tell anyone. I know. But Daniel Brooks is being investigated for improper conduct. He has been removed from the case. And without his backing, you are just, Sandra paused, you are just a scorned wife with an axe to grind. That is how they will frame it. I hung up the phone and sat in Emma's living room, unable to move, unable to think, unable to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. 2 days later, I saw a photo on Instagram that made everything clear. Brooke Nelson, Ryan's mistress, was at a fancy restaurant. The man sitting across from her, smiling, leaning close, Domingum, was Daniel Brooks. The caption read, "Business dinner with the smartest guy I know," followed by a heart emoji. Daniel was not helping me. Daniel was Ryan's cleanup crew. He had been gathering information on what I knew, what I could prove, and how to neutralize me. Every conversation, every document I shared, every piece of evidence I handed over, he fed directly back to my husband. I had trusted him completely, and he had destroyed me completely. Here's what I want you to understand, because this is something I wish someone had told me. We think we can spot the bad people. We think liars look like liars. We think betrayers have some mark on them that sets them apart. But the most dangerous people are the ones who seem kind, the ones who listen, the ones who make you feel safe. If you are going through something terrible, and someone shows up offering help exactly when you need it most, be careful. Ask questions. Verify independently. Do not let your desperation blind you to the possibility that rescue and destruction can wear the same face. I stopped leaving Emma's apartment. I stopped eating. I stopped responding to texts. The weight of everything that had happened pressed down on me like a physical force, crushing me deeper into the couch cushions every day. One night, Emma found me sitting in the dark kitchen at 3 a.m, staring at the wall. "Lauren," she said softly, sitting down beside me, "you are scaring me. I am scared too. Then fight. You are not the type to give up." I laughed bitterly. "I am not fighting anymore, Emma. I am being hunted. Every move I make, he has already countered. Every person I trust turns out to be his." Emma took my hand. "Then stop playing his game." "What does that mean?" "You keep reacting to what he does. What if you stopped reacting and started creating?" I looked at her, not understanding. She reminded me of something our mother used to say. "You cannot win a chess game by only defending." Eventually, you have to move. Ryan's power came from money, connections, and controlling the narrative. I had none of those things, but I had something Ryan did not expect. I had nothing left to lose. When you are at rock bottom, you have a strange kind of freedom. No one can threaten to take things from you when everything is already gone. No one can scare you with consequences when you have already survived the worst. Rock bottom is not the end. It is the foundation. And foundations are what you build on. I made a decision that changed everything. I was going to disappear, not literally, not running away, but I was going to become invisible to Ryan and everyone connected to him. I deleted all my social media accounts, changed my phone number, stopped communicating with anyone who might be connected to my old life in North Carolina. I did not hire another lawyer. I did not confront anyone. I did not post angry messages, or reach out to mutual friends, or do any of the things that would let Ryan know I was still fighting. Instead, I went quiet, and I got to work. Through my waitressing job, I had met several customers who worked in finance. One of them mentioned that a small accounting firm nearby was looking for administrative help. The pay was not great, but they were willing to train someone who wanted to learn. I applied the next day. Within a month, I was no longer serving pancakes. I was organizing files, learning accounting software, and absorbing everything I could about financial documentation. The experience with Daniel had taught me something valuable. I now understood, at least at a basic level, how financial crimes worked, how shell companies were structured, how money trails could be hidden and uncovered. I was going to become an expert. I enrolled in online courses for forensic accounting. I studied at night, after work, after helping Lily with her homework, after making sure Emma did not worry too much about me. 6 months passed. Ryan, believing he had won, got sloppy. He divorced me in absentia. I did not contest. I did not show up. I let him have the house, the assets, everything. He married Brooke, 3 months later, the local paper ran a photo with the headline, "Local Business Leader Ryan Mercer Weds in Elegant Ceremony." I saw the photo, and I smiled, because while Ryan was celebrating, I was building. Through my work at the accounting firm, I had connected with a network of forensic accountants, real ones. Professionals who had no connection to the Mercer family and no interest in protecting them. One name kept coming up in my research: Janet Morrison, a retired IRS investigator who now worked as a consultant, specializing in cases that other people had given up on. I reached out to her with everything I had: my notebooks, my timelines, the fragments of evidence I had managed to save before Daniel destroyed the rest. Janet was 62 years old, with silver hair and the kind of calm, steady demeanor that comes from decades of seeing the worst of human nature and refusing to be broken by it. She looked at my documentation for 3 days before calling me. "This man is not just a cheater," she said. "He is running one of the most sophisticated kickback operations I have seen in 30 years. And you are the key to bringing him down." My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" "You have something nobody else has. You lived with him. You saw patterns. You remember details that do not exist in any document. But we have to do this my way, Lauren. No mistakes, no leaks, no trusting anyone we have not vetted completely." "I learned from the Daniel situation," I said quietly. "Good. Because we are going to build a case so airtight that not even his county commissioner uncle can save him. But it is going to take time. Can you be patient? I had already waited this long. I could wait a little longer." Janet spent 6 months building a federal case against Ryan Mercer. This time, there were no leaks. The investigation went through the CSI, the FBI's white-collar crime division in Washington, D.C., far from Ryan's network of protection in North Carolina. Janet explained the strategy. "We have the paper trail, but we need him to make a move that proves intent. We need him to think he is safe and then get greedy. How do we do that? We make him think you have completely given up, that you have moved on, that you are no threat. So, I created a new social media presence. I posted photos of my new life in Seattle. Hiking trips in the mountains, coffee with friends, a carefully staged new boyfriend, actually Emma's friend Marcus, who was gay and found the whole thing hilarious. Marcus was the perfect fake boyfriend. He was handsome, photogenic, and complained about my ex more than I did. "Girl," he said when I showed him photos of Ryan, "he wore that tie to your anniversary dinner? That alone is grounds for divorce." When I told him the tie was the least of Ryan's crimes, Marcus gasped and said, "You mean it gets worse than Taupe Paisley?" I loved him instantly. Ryan saw the posts. Ryan saw me happy. And Ryan, being Ryan, could not stand to see me happy. His new wife, Brooke, was expensive. The legal fees from the divorce and the federal investigation scare had been expensive. Ryan needed money. So he started a new scheme. Bigger, bolder, stupider. He was so confident that I was defeated, so certain that no one was watching, that he cut corners. He used the same shell company structures. He forged signatures the same way. This time, he forged Brooke's signature. Old habits die hard, and Janet was watching everything. The best revenge is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not posting on social media or confronting them at their wedding. The best revenge is becoming someone they cannot touch, cannot threaten, cannot control. It is building a life so solid that when they finally fall, and they will fall, you are nowhere near the blast radius. I had become that person. Now it was time to watch him fall. 18 months after I fled North Carolina, FBI agents arrived at Ryan Mercer's home at 6 in the morning. I was not there to see it. Janet had warned me to stay far away from anything that could be construed as involvement. But I received a call from her 30 minutes after it happened. "It is done," she said. "He is in custody." The charges against Ryan were staggering. Wire fraud, 23 counts. Money laundering, 8 counts. Tax evasion, 5 counts. Identity theft, 14 counts, including the documents he had forged with my name. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Total potential sentence, 47 years. I sat on my bed in my small apartment, the apartment I had worked so hard to afford on my own, and I cried. Not from sadness, not from relief, from something I had not felt in so long, I had almost forgotten what it was. Vindication. But the story did not end there. During the investigation, agents discovered something I had never known. Ryan's kickback scheme was not his idea. It was his father's. Robert Mercer Sr. had been running the same operation for 20 years. Ryan had inherited it, expanded it, and gotten greedy. When agents raided the family business headquarters, they found evidence connecting Robert Mercer to a network of hospital administrators, politicians, and, most shockingly, Daniel Brooks. Daniel had not just been working for Ryan. Daniel was Robert Mercer's fixer, cleaning up problems for 2 generations. The man who had pretended to help me had been protecting the Mercer family since before I even met Ryan. But the biggest shock was still to come. Brooke Nelson, Ryan's new wife, was not just a mistress who got lucky. Brooke was Robert Mercer Sr.'s illegitimate daughter. Ryan had not just cheated on me with his assistant. He had cheated on me with his own half-sister. They did not know. Robert had never told anyone. The DNA evidence emerged during the investigation when financial documents revealed trust funds set up for Brooke under the Mercer family accounts. When Emma told me about the half-sibling revelation, I spit out my coffee so hard it hit the window across the room. She said, "I know this is serious, but..." And I said, "Emma, my ex-husband accidentally married his own half-sister. I am allowed to laugh. This is objectively the funniest, terrible thing that has ever happened. We laughed until we cried. Then we cried for real. Then we laughed again. Healing is weird." The trial lasted 3 weeks. I was called to testify on the 4th day. I walked into that courtroom not as a victim, but as a witness. I had spent 2 years becoming someone Ryan could not destroy, and now I was going to tell the truth about who he really was. He sat at the defense table, looking diminished, gray, hollow. The confident, charming man I had married was gone, replaced by someone who looked like he had not slept in weeks. He tried to catch my eye. I did not look at him once. I told the truth, calmly, clearly, completely. When the defense attorney tried to paint me as a scorned woman seeking revenge, I responded without hesitation. I am not seeking revenge. I am seeking justice. Those are different things. Revenge is emotional. Justice is systematic. I spent the last 2 years learning the difference. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Ryan Mercer was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to 23 years. Robert Mercer Sr. was found guilty, sentenced to 15 years. Daniel Brooks was found guilty of obstruction of justice, sentenced to 8 years. The Mercer family empire, built on decades of fraud and manipulation, collapsed completely. After the trial, something unexpected happened. Brooke reached out to me. I almost deleted her message without reading it, but something made me stop. "I know you hate me," she wrote. "You should. But I want you to know I did not know who I was. I did not know what he was doing. I thought I was in love." I sat with her message for a long time. Part of me wanted to hate her forever. But then I remembered what it felt like to believe Ryan's lies, to trust him completely, to build my entire life around a man who was manipulating me from the very beginning. Brooke was not my enemy. She was another casualty. I responded, I do not hate you. I feel sorry for you. You married him. I escaped him. We did not become friends, but we made peace, and sometimes that is enough. 2 years after the trial, my life looked nothing like I had ever imagined. I lived in Portland, Oregon, in a small house with a garden that I tended every weekend. I drove a used Prius that got me where I needed to go. I had a dog named Justice, a golden retriever mix that Emma had insisted on naming because she said it was too perfect not to. I was not rich, but I was free. After earning my forensic accounting certification, I had started my own consultancy. I specialized in helping women uncover financial abuse in divorce cases, women whose husbands had hidden assets, women who suspected fraud but did not know how to prove it, women who felt trapped and powerless, just like I had felt. I wrote a book about my experience, The Paper Trail, a survivor's guide to financial warfare in divorce. It was not a bestseller, but it found the people who needed it. I received emails every week from women who told me my story had helped them fight back, women who had documented their husband's deception, women who had uncovered hidden accounts, women who had saved themselves. That was worth more than any amount of money. I also had a therapist I saw twice a month. Her name was Dr. Rebecca Warren, and she had helped me understand something important. The trauma of what Ryan did would never fully disappear. It had changed me at a fundamental level, but change did not have to mean damage. I could take what happened and transform it into something that helped others. Pain could become purpose, and purpose, it turned out, was the best medicine I had ever found. 3 years after the divorce, I was invited to speak at a conference for family law attorneys. The topic was financial abuse in marriage, specifically how attorneys could better identify and document it for their clients. I was nervous. Public speaking had never been my strength, and standing in front of a room full of lawyers felt intimidating in ways I could not fully articulate. But I did it anyway. I told my story, not the dramatic version with all the plot twists, but the real version. The small moments of control, the gradual isolation, the way Ryan had made me doubt my own perception of reality. I talked about the importance of documentation, of building support networks, of finding professionals who could be trusted. And I talked about hope, because here's what I learned. I said to the room full of attorneys, the system is not perfect. It fails people every day, but it can also work. It can deliver justice if you have the right evidence, the right allies, and the determination to keep fighting even when everything seems hopeless. When I finished, the room applauded. Afterward, a man approached me near the coffee station. He was in his mid-40s, with kind eyes and a slight limp from an old injury. Ms. Mercer, he said. It is Ms. Avery now, I replied. I went back to my maiden name. He nodded. Ms. Avery, I am Nathan Cole. I was one of your husband's competitors back in North Carolina. I stiffened. I am not interested in discussing Ryan. Neither am I, he said quickly. I wanted to tell you something else. He destroyed my company 5 years ago, used the same tactics, forged documents, manipulation, corruption. I lost everything. My business, my marriage, nearly lost my kids. I softened slightly. I am sorry. Do not be. Watching him go to prison was the best day of my life, but that is not why I am here. He paused. I read your book. It helped me understand what happened. It helped me forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. I just wanted to say thank you. I looked at this stranger, who had experienced his own version of what Ryan had done to me, and I felt something shift. Would you like to get coffee? I asked. Not now, but sometime? I would like to hear your story. Nathan smiled. I would like that very much. We talked for an hour that day, then 2 hours, then dinner. Nathan Cole did not sweep me off my feet. We became friends first. Slowly, carefully, both of us carrying wounds that had not fully healed. He had his own baggage, the failed marriage that crumbled after his business collapsed, the years of depression when he could barely get out of bed, the slow, painful process of rebuilding a life from scratch. He understood me in a way that nobody else could, and I understood him. Here's what I learned about love after trauma. Do not look for someone to save you. You already saved yourself. Look for someone who sees the person you became through the fire and loves that person. Someone who does not want to rescue you because they know you do not need rescuing. Someone who walks beside you, not in front of you or behind you. That kind of love does not happen fast. It happens slow, and slow is okay. Slow is healthy. Slow is real. Nathan and I dated for a year before we said I love you. We dated for another 6 months before he met Emma and Lily. We dated for another year after that before we talked about the future. He never rushed me, never pressured me, never made me feel like I owed him anything for being patient. He just showed up, day after day, consistent, reliable, real. One afternoon, we were in my backyard garden, planting tomatoes. Justice was running circles around us, getting dirt on his paws, and then tracking it across the patio. Nathan looked up at me, soil on his hands, sweat on his forehead, and said, "I know this is not glamorous." I laughed. "What?" "This." He gestured at the garden, the dirt, the chaotic dog. "I figure after everything we have both been through, glamorous is not what either of us needs." I studied his face, trying to understand where he was going with this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart stopped. "Lauren Avery," he said. "I am proposing while holding a trowel. I know that is ridiculous. But I am also proposing while holding my whole future. The trowel is just along for the ride." Tears filled my eyes. "Nathan, I love you," he continued, "not because of what you survived, but because of who you are. I love your strength and your humor and the way you talk to Justice, like he understands English. I love that you help strangers fight battles they think they cannot win. I love that you still believe in people even after everything." He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring, nothing flashy, just a small diamond on a silver band. "Will you marry me?" I looked at this man who had waited, who had never pushed, who had shown me what love looked like when it was healthy and patient and real. "Yes," I said. "Absolutely yes." Justice immediately knocked over a tomato plant in excitement. We did not care. The wedding was small, 30 guests in my backyard garden, Emma as my maid of honor, Nathan's teenage children, Jake and Meredith, as best man and bridesmaid, Justice wearing a bow tie that he kept trying to eat. It was not fancy. It was perfect. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early to watch the sunrise from my kitchen window. Emma found me there, an hour later, still in my robe, holding a cup of coffee. "Nervous?" she asked. I shook my head. "Happy. I did not know I could feel this way again." She hugged me. "Mom would be so proud of you." "I know," I said. "I like to think she is watching." The ceremony was simple. A local officiant. Vows we had written ourselves. No big production, just two people who had found each other after the worst parts of their lives. Nathan's vows made me cry. "Lauren," he said, holding my hands, 4 years ago I was a broken man. I had lost everything, and I blame myself every day. Then I met you, and I learned something important. We are not defined by what happens to us. We are defined by what we do next. You taught me that. Your courage taught me that. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of the second chance you gave me. My vows has made him cry. "Nathan, I said. I spent years believing that love was supposed to hurt, that sacrifice meant suffering, that if I just gave enough of myself, I would eventually be enough. You showed me a different kind of love, the kind that does not ask me to be smaller, the kind that celebrates who I am instead of trying to change me. I promise to love you the same way, fully, honestly, without reservation. We exchanged rings, we kissed, justice barked. And just like that, I was married again. But this time, it was real. The reception was a potluck. Guests brought dishes. Emma had spent 2 days making her famous chocolate cake. And Marcus, my former fake boyfriend turned real friend, had created a playlist that somehow included both classic soul and 90s hip-hop. We danced under string lights as the sun went down. Nathan's kids tolerated me with the particular grace of teenagers who had been forced to accept a new stepparent. They were not cold exactly, just cautious. I understood. Their mother had left after Nathan's business collapsed, and they had every reason to be skeptical of new people entering their lives. I promised myself I would earn their trust slowly, the same way Nathan had earned mine. Late in the evening, Emma pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, pressing a small envelope into my hands. Inside was a letter from our mother, written years ago and saved for this moment. To my daughter Lauren, on her wedding day. I had no idea this letter existed. With trembling hands, I read it. "My darling girl, if you are reading this, then you have found someone worth marrying. I want you to know how proud I am of you, whoever you have become by now. Life has a way of testing us, and I suspect you have faced challenges I cannot imagine. But you are my daughter, which means you are strong and stubborn and capable of more than you know. Be happy. You deserve it. All my love. Forever, Mom." I cried for 10 minutes straight. Nathan held me through all of it. 6 months after the wedding, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. A letter from prison, from Ryan. I almost threw it away without opening it. The past was behind me, and I had no interest in anything my ex-husband had to say. But something made me stop. I opened the envelope. "Lauren," the letter began, "I heard you got married to Nathan Cole, of all people. The man I crushed." How poetic. "I want you to know something. I am glad you found happiness, not for you. I still hate you for destroying me, but because it means I was right about one thing. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. You are not receiving this letter because I am a good person. You are receiving it because my parole hearing is in 6 months, and my lawyer said showing remorse might help. I do not feel remorse. I feel angry. I feel trapped. I feel like I deserved better. But I am supposed to tell you I am sorry. So here it is. I am sorry. I am not. But maybe someday I will be. Ryan, P.S. Do not respond. I know you will not. That is another thing I underestimated about you. I read the letter once. Then I walked to the backyard fire pit. I dropped it into the flames. Emma, who had come to visit for the weekend, watched me through the window. "What was that?" she asked when I came back inside. "Nothing important. Just the past trying to ruin one more day." "Did it work?" I watched the smoke rise into the evening sky. Not even close. Ryan's parole hearing happened 3 months later. I was not there. I did not need to be. The board reviewed his case and noted that he had shown no genuine remorse. His letter to his ex-wife was evaluated as manipulative rather than apologetic. His behavior in prison had been problematic. Parole denied, Ryan Mercer would serve his full sentence. I found out through Janet, who still kept tabs on the case. "How do you feel?" she asked. I thought about it. "Nothing," I said finally. "I feel nothing about him anymore, and that is the most wonderful feeling in the world." People ask me all the time how I survived everything Ryan put me through. I used to think the answer was complicated. Lawyers, evidence, strategy. But it is actually simple. I survived because I refused to let his story become my story. He wanted me to be the unstable wife. I became a forensic expert. He wanted me to be the bitter ex. I became an advocate for others. He wanted me to be alone forever. I built a community of people who love me. The life I have now is not the life I planned. It is better. Because I built it myself, from the ashes of the life he tried to burn down. If you are in the middle of your fire right now, if everything is burning and you cannot see a way out, I need you to hear this. The fire does not last forever, but you do. Keep going, keep documenting, keep building, keep breathing. Your chapter is not over. It is just beginning. And when you write the ending, make it one he never saw coming. 5 years after I left North Carolina, I stood on stage at a conference for survivors of domestic abuse. The room held 500 women. 500 women who had been told they were crazy, who had been isolated from their families, who had been manipulated and gaslit and made to feel like they were the problem. I looked out at their faces and saw myself in every single one of them. My name is Lauren Avery, I began, and I am here to tell you that your story is not over. I spoke for an hour about my journey, the discovery, the betrayal, the system that failed me, the slow, painful process of rebuilding. And then I said something that I had not planned to say. There is something I need to tell you that I have never said publicly before. The room went silent. When I lost my baby, I wanted to die. I let that settle. I do not mean that metaphorically. I mean that there were nights when I sat alone in my sister's apartment and thought about how much easier it would be to just stop existing, to let the pain win. The room was completely still. But I am still here, I continued, and so are you. Every single person in this room chose to keep going when everything inside them was screaming to give up. That is not weakness. That is the most profound strength there is. Tears were streaming down faces throughout the audience. You are going to have bad days. Days when the trauma comes back. Days when you feel like you are right back at the beginning. Those days do not mean you have failed. They mean you are human. And being human means surviving is not linear. I paused. But I promise you this. If you keep going, if you keep building, if you keep choosing yourself even when it feels impossible, you will find the other side. Not the same person you were before. Better, stronger, someone he could never have imagined you becoming. I looked out at those 500 women, and when you get there, reach back and help the next one. That is how we win, not alone, together. The applause lasted for 3 full minutes. That night, I went home to my husband, who had dinner waiting. I played with Justice in the backyard while the sun set. I called Emma and laughed about nothing important. I went to bed beside someone who loved me exactly as I was. And before I fell asleep, I thought about the woman I used to be. The one who stood in a hotel parking lot, watching her entire world collapse. The one who thought she would never be whole again. I wished I could go back and tell her what was coming, not the pain. She would find that out soon enough. But the rest of it, the strength she did not know she had, the life she would build from nothing, the love she would find when she finally stopped looking for someone to save her and started saving herself. I wished I could tell her that the worst day of her life was also the first day of her real life, but I could not go back. So instead, I closed my eyes, grateful for everything I had survived and everything I had become because of it, and I slept peacefully. The end. 1 year later, I received a letter from a woman named Sarah in Ohio. "Dear Lauren," she wrote, I read your book 6 months ago when I was at my lowest point. My husband had just cleaned out our bank accounts and filed for custody of our kids, claiming I was an unfit mother because of my anxiety medication. I almost gave up. But then I found your book in the library. I do not know why I picked it up. I think I was just looking for something to read in the parking lot before I went home to an empty house. I read it in 2 days. Then I started documenting. I found a forensic accountant. I built my case. Last week I won full custody. The judge saw through his lies. My kids are home with me. I wanted to say thank you. You saved my life, Sarah. I read her letter 3 times, then I wrote back, Dear Sarah, you did not save your life because of me. You saved it because of you. I just reminded you that it was possible. Go be happy. You have earned it. Lauren. I put down my pen and looked out the window at the garden, where Nathan was teaching his son Jake how to plant tomatoes. Justice was, predictably, in the way. I smiled. Some stories have happy endings, and some of us are lucky enough to live them. If this story speaks to something inside you, stay until the end. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, someone who feels trapped, someone who thinks they cannot escape, share this video with them. Sometimes one story can change everything. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey we walk together. Your support means more than you know. Now, let us begin. Closing disclaimer. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to bring meaningful lessons and inspiration to our audience. Every story we share is crafted with intention, designed not just to entertain, but to empower, validate, and remind you that no matter how dark your chapter feels right now, your story is far from over. Thank you for being part of this community.